Emotional attachment in relationships can be a source of immense joy, but it can also become a cause of deep pain. Whether it's a romantic relationship, friendship, or even family bond, emotional ties often come with expectations, hopes, and fears of loss. When these relationships break or don't go as we desire, the emotional consequences can be overwhelming, leading to feelings of hurt, anxiety, and sometimes even helplessness. Stoicism, with its firm and grounded philosophy, provides a powerful framework to help individuals separate their emotions from those of others, regain control over their emotional responses, and find peace within. Here are 20 Stoic principles to help you detach emotionally from someone else, overcome pain, and live a tranquil, liberated life. Principle 1. Recognize the transience of all things. In Stoic philosophy, the concept of impermanence is fundamental. Marcus Aurelius often reflected on the nature of life's fleeting moments and the temporary nature of everything we hold dear. This includes the people we love, the relationships we build, and the experiences we cherish. The Stoic view emphasizes that everything in life is subject to change, decay, and eventual disappearance. Nothing lasts forever, and recognizing this fact allows us to find a profound sense of peace. When we emotionally attach ourselves to someone, it's often because we unconsciously believe or hope that the relationship will last indefinitely. But as Stoicism teaches, all relationships, like all things, are impermanent. People enter our lives, play their part, and eventually may drift away. This cycle is part of life's natural flow. By accepting that impermanence is not just possible but inevitable, we begin to detach from the need to cling to relationships. This perspective doesn't mean we should love or care for people any less. Instead, it encourages us to love with the awareness that things may change. To practice this principle, start by reflecting on past relationships or friendships that have naturally come to an end. Acknowledge that, while they were valuable at the time, they have passed, just like other seasons of your life. Visualize how temporary these connections truly are and understand that current relationships are no different. With this mindset, we can approach relationships with both a deep appreciation and a gentle grip, realizing that letting go is part of the process. Principle 2. Focus on what you can control. The Stoics taught that one of the most empowering realizations in life is understanding the boundary between what we can control and what we cannot. Epictetus, one of the leading Stoic philosophers, emphasized this wisdom in his teachings. According to Epictetus, we can control only our own thoughts, attitudes, and actions, not those of others. This distinction forms the cornerstone of emotional freedom. When we become emotionally attached to someone, we often attempt, consciously or unconsciously, to influence their feelings, reactions, or behaviors to match our own desires or needs. We may find ourselves wishing that they would care more, understand us better, or even change who they are to suit our preferences. However, the Stoics remind us that this desire to control others is a futile effort that leads only to frustration, disappointment, and unnecessary suffering. To apply this principle, redirect your energy inward. Whenever you feel compelled to change or control another person's actions, shift your focus to your own responses. Instead of fixating on how they should behave, concentrate on managing your emotions, adjusting your expectations, and cultivating a sense of calm. Recognize that your power lies solely within your thoughts, choices, and actions, not in anyone else's. This practice of internal focus enables you to reclaim emotional independence and resilience, letting go of the need for others to act in ways that make you feel secure or validated. Principle 3. Accept reality rather than resist it. A core Stoic teaching is that resisting reality, wishing things were different from how they are, leads to inner turmoil and suffering. When it comes to relationships, it's natural to develop expectations, hoping that people will act a certain way, or that connections will remain constant. However, Stoicism advises that we should accept people and situations as they are, rather than how we wish them to be. This acceptance allows us to detach emotionally from unrealistic expectations, freeing ourselves from inevitable disappointment. In relationships, resistance often manifests as an unwillingness to accept changes or flaws in others. We might struggle to come to terms with a loved one's choices or personality traits that we cannot change. By embracing acceptance, we acknowledge that people are who they are, not who we want them to be. This outlook doesn't mean we have to agree with or even like everything about them, but it does mean that we stop fighting against reality. To put this principle into practice, try to notice when you feel frustrated or disappointed in someone else's behavior. Ask yourself if this reaction stems from an expectation you're holding on to. Recognize that you cannot force others to meet your ideals. By accepting people for who they are, you cultivate emotional peace and reduce the likelihood of feeling let down or upset when they don't act as you had hoped. Principle 4. Reframe emotional attachments. Another Stoic approach to emotional detachment is learning to see others not as sources of happiness, but as companions on our life's journey. When we rely on another person for our happiness, we hand over control of our emotional well-being to them. However, Stoicism teaches us that true happiness must come from within. One way to do this is by changing your perspective on relationships. Rather than viewing someone as the key to your happiness, recognize that they are simply a part of your life, not the foundation of it. This shift in mindset enables you to appreciate others while reducing dependence on them for your sense of contentment. By reframing relationships in this way, you empower yourself to find fulfillment from within, regardless of whether any specific person is present in your life. To apply this principle, take time to reflect on what brings you joy outside of your relationships. Cultivate hobbies, interests, and personal goals that fulfill you independently. When you focus on building a fulfilling life that doesn't rely solely on others, you naturally become less emotionally attached and more self-sufficient. Principle 5. Practice negative visualization. Negative visualization is a Stoic exercise where you imagine the loss of something or someone valuable to you. By mentally preparing yourself for such a possibility, you reduce the emotional impact if it were to actually happen. This exercise doesn't mean dwelling on negative thoughts, but rather acknowledging that loss is a part of life and allowing yourself to come to terms with it. In relationships, practicing negative visualization can help you detach emotionally by easing the fear of losing someone close. Visualize a life without the presence of a particular person and reflect on how you would adapt. This process can lessen the shock and emotional toll should the relationship change or end. By preparing yourself mentally, you're able to approach relationships with a calm acceptance and resilience, rather than a fear of loss. To incorporate this practice, set aside time to think about the people and things you value most. Imagine what life would be like if they were no longer there. This doesn't mean you want or expect them to disappear, but it helps you strengthen your emotional stability and ability to navigate life's inevitable changes with grace. Principle 6. Understand that emotions are temporary. Stoicism teaches that emotions, no matter how intense, are fleeting. When we experience powerful feelings such as sadness, anger, or love, it can seem as though they define our reality. However, Stoics remind us that emotions are temporary states of mind that don't last forever. By recognizing the transient nature of emotions, we can detach from them and prevent them from overwhelming us. This principle encourages us to observe our emotions rather than identify with them. When you feel emotionally attached or distressed due to a relationship, remind yourself that these feelings too will pass. Instead of resisting or suppressing emotions, acknowledge them, understand their cause, and let them flow without letting them control your actions. To apply this, try mindfulness techniques like deep breathing or journaling when intense emotions arise. Recognize that you don't have to act on every emotion you feel. By viewing emotions as passing clouds rather than as permanent truths, you strengthen your ability to detach from them and maintain a steady, peaceful mind. Principle 7. Separation is freedom, not coldness. In Stoic philosophy, emotional detachment is often misunderstood as coldness or indifference. However, true detachment is about freeing oneself from dependency, not eliminating compassion. The Stoics believed that we could care for others deeply without becoming entangled in their lives to the point where our own well-being depends on them. Emotional separation is a practice of internal liberation that allows us to experience relationships more fully and authentically. By releasing the need to cling to others for our happiness, we can love and support them without sacrificing our independence. This freedom lets us be more compassionate, as we're not weighed down by fear, need, or possessiveness. To embrace this principle, remind yourself that independence doesn't mean you're disconnected or unfeeling. Instead, it reflects a commitment to personal well-being, which in turn allows you to be a stable, supportive presence for others without being controlled by emotional dependency. Principle 8. Detach from the past. Our emotional attachments are often tied to memories and experiences from the past. In Stoicism, dwelling on the past is seen as a hindrance to living fully in the present. The Stoics emphasize that the past is beyond our control and cannot be changed, so lingering on it only drains us of energy we could be using in the here and now. Detaching from the past doesn't mean dismissing the value of memories or experiences, but rather acknowledging them and letting go of their emotional grip on us. This detachment allows us to stop replaying old stories or reliving past pains, enabling us to approach the present with a fresh perspective. To practice this, whenever you find yourself dwelling on past events, remind yourself that they are no longer part of your present reality. Accept the past as it was, and turn your focus to the current moment. Doing so will gradually reduce the hold that past emotional attachments have on you. Principle 9. Reevaluate your expectations. Stoic philosophy teaches that many emotional struggles come from unmet expectations. When we place high expectations on others or on relationships, we set ourselves up for potential disappointment and distress. By adjusting and reevaluating these expectations, we can alleviate unnecessary suffering and foster healthier emotional boundaries. In relationships, it's natural to hope that others will act in ways that meet our standards or desires. However, Stoicism reminds us that our expectations are not obligations for others to fulfill. Letting go of unrealistic or rigid expectations allows us to interact with others without feeling resentment or frustration when they don't meet our ideals. To apply this principle, take time to assess your expectations of people in your life. Are they realistic, or are they based on your own desires rather than the other person's nature? By softening expectations and approaching people as they are, you reduce emotional strain and cultivate acceptance. Principle 10. Recognize the power of perspective. Marcus Aurelius wrote extensively about the importance of perspective, emphasizing that our experiences are shaped by how we choose to view them. In relationships, the way we perceive people and situations can greatly impact our emotional responses. Often, attachment and suffering stem from interpreting others' actions or behaviors in ways that heighten our emotional dependence on them. When we shift our perspective, we can detach emotionally and respond more rationally. For instance, instead of viewing a friend's withdrawal as a personal rejection, try to see it as a natural phase in the ebb and flow of relationships. By reframing situations in a neutral light, we can release emotional attachment and prevent misunderstandings. To practice this, whenever you feel an emotional reaction building, pause and ask yourself, is there another way to interpret this situation? Challenge yourself to see things from a different angle, focusing on objectivity. This shift helps you step back, avoid emotional overwhelm, and respond with clarity and calmness. Principle 11. Practice gratitude for what has been. Stoicism encourages us to practice gratitude, not just for our current blessings, but also for past relationships and experiences. Rather than focusing on what you've lost or on people who are no longer in your life, shift your attention to the positive memories, lessons, and personal growth that these relationships offered. Gratitude fosters emotional detachment by moving your focus away from loss and onto appreciation. By appreciating the time you shared with others rather than grieving its end, you replace attachment with gratitude. This mental shift allows you to let go of what is no longer present in your life while retaining a warm and positive view of the past. To put this into practice, consider making a gratitude list that includes the qualities and experiences you appreciated in a past relationship. Reflect on the good it brought you and the personal growth it inspired. Gratitude will help soften the edges of loss and ease your journey toward emotional freedom. Principle 12. Avoid tying your identity to another person. In Stoic philosophy, your sense of self and identity should be grounded in your own values, virtues, and beliefs rather than in external relationships. Often, we become emotionally attached because we define ourselves through our connections to others. When we view our identity as linked to someone else, their presence or absence can have an outsized impact on our self-worth and sense of stability. Instead, the Stoics teach that we should cultivate an identity that stands independently of others. Recognize that, while relationships may add to your life, they do not define who you are. You are complete within yourself, and your value is intrinsic, not dependent on any external relationship. To apply this, spend time developing interests, values, and goals that resonate with you personally. Remind yourself that your worth is not tied to anyone else's validation or presence. By building a strong sense of self, you naturally become less dependent on others for your sense of identity and security. Principle 13. Understand that people's actions reflect their own nature. One of the Stoic teachings is that people's actions are often a reflection of their own inner struggles, values, or beliefs, rather than of you personally. When someone hurts or disappoints you, remember that their behavior is more about them than it is about you. By recognizing this, you can detach emotionally from the need to take their actions personally. For instance, if someone withdraws or behaves negatively, this doesn't necessarily mean there's something wrong with you or that you are at fault. Their actions reflect their own inner world, experiences, and issues. This understanding allows you to maintain your emotional balance without letting others' behavior shake your self-worth. To implement this, practice reminding yourself that everyone operates from their own perspective and history. When someone's behavior impacts you emotionally, pause and consider that their actions are likely driven by factors unrelated to you. This will help you detach from the need to internalize or personalize others' behaviors. Principle 14. Lower expectations of how others will respond. In Stoic philosophy, managing expectations is central to reducing emotional turbulence. Often, we expect others to respond, behave, or reciprocate in ways that align with our own values and desires. However, these expectations can lead to frustration and disappointment when people act differently from what we'd hoped or assumed. By lowering your expectations, you free yourself from the need for others' responses to align with your own wishes, which helps you detach emotionally. When you approach relationships with minimal expectations, you allow yourself to experience others as they are, not as you want them to be. This shift reduces the emotional impact of their actions or reactions as you've prepared yourself to accept any outcome. Detachment, in this case, does not mean apathy, but rather an acceptance of reality over personal wishes. To apply this principle, make a habit of acknowledging and then releasing any specific expectations you hold about how others should act. Remind yourself that each individual operates from their own mind and values, and let go of the need to control their behavior. This approach makes it easier to remain emotionally balanced regardless of others' responses. Principle 15. Shift from emotion to reason. The Stoics believed that, in times of emotional turmoil, the best course of action is to step back and apply reason. Emotional reactions are often fueled by instinct, which can lead to irrational decisions. By examining situations through a logical lens, you create distance between yourself and the immediate emotions, making it easier to detach and maintain clarity. When you feel overwhelmed by attachment, take a moment to assess your emotions rationally. Ask yourself questions like, is this reaction proportionate to the situation? Or, how might I view this differently if I were an outsider? This pause allows your rational mind to take over, providing perspective and reducing the grip of emotional dependency. To practice this, make it a habit to pause and breathe whenever strong emotions arise. Observe the emotions without judgment and then engage your logical mind to find alternative perspectives. This practice helps you distance yourself from impulsive emotional responses, leading to calmer, more grounded interactions. Principle 16. Take responsibility for your own happiness. The Stoic philosophy holds that each individual is responsible for their own inner peace and happiness. Relying on others to make you happy or to bring you emotional stability can lead to dependency, which often deepens emotional attachment. By taking full responsibility for your own happiness, you free yourself from needing others to fulfill this role, allowing for a healthier detachment. This principle encourages self-sufficiency in emotional matters. When you cultivate your own joy and contentment, you become less affected by others' actions and decisions. Happiness, rooted in personal values and inner resources, remains stable regardless of external relationships. To embody this, invest in activities, goals, and practices that bring you satisfaction independently of others. Focus on building a fulfilling life that aligns with your own values and needs. This self-reliance fosters emotional independence, making it easier to detach from relying on others for your sense of well-being. Principle 17. Release the need for approval. Stoics remind us that the need for external validation is a source of unnecessary suffering. Approval from others is fleeting and often based on factors beyond our control. By releasing the need for approval, we cultivate a sense of self-worth that is independent and secure, allowing us to detach from the opinions and judgments of others. Emotional attachment often intensifies when we seek validation from someone we're connected to, as their opinions can heavily influence our sense of self. The Stoics teach that true strength comes from within, so relying on others' approval only weakens our inner stability. To practice this, work on recognizing your own value without needing others to affirm it. Reflect on your qualities and achievements, focusing on the pride and satisfaction you feel independently of anyone else's input. This detachment from approval allows you to maintain a strong sense of self, regardless of external opinions. Principle 18. Use solitude to reflect and recharge. One of the key Stoic practices is embracing solitude as a means to reconnect with your inner self. In a world full of distractions, relationships, and external influences, it's easy to become overwhelmed and lose sight of your own needs and values. Solitude offers a sanctuary for reflection, helping you detach emotionally and gain clarity. Taking time to be alone allows you to pause, assess your emotions, and restore your mental balance. It provides the opportunity to separate your thoughts from external influences, enabling you to think clearly and rationally about your relationships. By spending time in solitude, you reconnect with your true self and develop a deeper understanding of your emotional state. To practice this principle, regularly schedule moments of solitude in your day or week. It could be as simple as a quiet walk, a few minutes of meditation, or journaling your thoughts. Use these moments not to dwell on emotions related to others, but to focus on cultivating inner peace, strengthening your sense of self, and evaluating how your emotions are being influenced by external relationships. Principle 19. See the bigger picture. The Stoics encourage us to keep a broader perspective, especially in difficult times. When we become emotionally attached to a person or situation, we tend to see it as the central focus of our world. However, life is much more expansive than any single relationship or event. By viewing your experiences in the larger context of your life and the world around you, you can reduce the emotional weight of the situation and gain perspective. This broader view helps you understand that while a particular relationship may be important, it is just one chapter in your life story. It also allows you to appreciate the impermanence of all experiences, helping you release emotional attachment. Seeing the big picture helps you detach from the narrow view that any single event or person defines your life. To incorporate this principle into your life, practice zooming out when you find yourself feeling emotionally overwhelmed. Reflect on the vastness of the world and the many opportunities and experiences life has to offer. Ask yourself, how will I look back on this in 5 or 10 years? This helps put things in perspective, reducing emotional dependency on any one relationship or event. Principle 20. Accept the illusion of permanence in relationships. In Stoicism, it is understood that nothing is permanent, not even our closest relationships. The inevitable ebb and flow of life means that people will come and go, and that relationships can change. By accepting the impermanence of all relationships, you can cultivate a healthier detachment, understanding that change is an inherent part of life. Many of us struggle with attachment because we believe that things should last forever. However, the Stoics teach that the only constant in life is change itself. When we accept that relationships, like all things, are temporary, we can release our emotional dependence on them and move forward with greater peace of mind. To practice this principle, take time to reflect on the transient nature of all things. Understand that relationships serve their purpose at a given time, but their ending doesn't diminish their value or meaning. When you stop clinging to the idea of permanence, you can experience relationships with greater freedom and less emotional attachment. Conclusion: Mastering emotional detachment with Stoic wisdom. The 20 principles outlined here provide a Stoic framework for achieving emotional detachment, helping you regain control over your reactions and navigate relationships with greater clarity and peace of mind. By recognizing the impermanence of everything, shifting your focus inward, and accepting that your emotional responses are within your control, you can break free from unhealthy attachments and find inner strength. Stoicism offers not just a way to endure emotional challenges, but a path to growth and resilience. By applying these principles consistently, you'll find that you become more adept at handling emotional challenges, building stronger relationships based on mutual respect and understanding, and living with a sense of emotional freedom and peace, regardless of the circumstances around you. With time, you'll learn that emotional detachment does not equate to emotional numbness. Rather, it is about preserving your inner peace, maintaining your emotional independence, and developing healthier, more balanced relationships with others. These Stoic principles will guide you on a journey to emotional mastery and lasting inner tranquility. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope these 20 Stoic principles will help you gain more control over your emotions and lead you to a life of greater inner peace and strength. If you found this content valuable, please don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel for more insightful content, and leave a comment sharing your thoughts or experiences with Stoic philosophy. Your feedback is always appreciated. Also, feel free to share this video with anyone who might benefit from these timeless lessons. Thanks again for tuning in, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.